This is Hernando.
And this is Emily.
And this is DAYLO on Air.
Today we are interviewing Mrs. Alford and Mrs. Amsden. So, to start off, why did you decide to be advisors of DAYLO?
So I'm going to just give you a brief history. I was approached originally by a teacher here at Battery Creek last year who was asked to advise DAYLO by a couple of seniors who were here last year. And they were involved with the Beaufort branch of DAYLO, which, so DAYLO is an organization that is mostly run by the Pat Conroy Literary Center. And there were a couple of our seniors who were involved with it at that level and wanted to start their own club here at Battery Creek. So they asked a teacher that they knew, and that teacher asked me to help, and I was delighted to help and excited to help. And I think that those seniors probably also reached out to you, Emily, to be a member, right? And so we started the club last year, and it was tiny. We did not have many members. Emily, I think we had 3 members. We had the 2 founding members, and we had Emily. And we had me, and we had another teacher. And this teacher, the reason I haven't named her is she's no longer here either. So at the end of the year, we lost the 2 seniors, and we were left with, and we lost that teacher. And so we were left with Emily and me. And so thinking of knowing I needed a co-advisor, thinking to myself, well, who would be the co-advisor for this group? Of course, I asked Ms. Alford because I knew that she would be the perfect person to help us with our mission. Our mission, DAYLO, is diversity and literacy. Diversity, awareness.
Youth literacy
organization. Thank you. I always forget awareness. But our 2 big things are diversity and literacy. And so who better than Miss Alford to help us with our mission? Meanwhile, Emily just took the lead as far as membership. We knew we had to build our membership for this year. Emily and I talked a couple times at the end of last year. We talked over the summer. You got our social media up and running. We put up some posters. We got on social media. And sure enough, Emily, you really were the superstar as far as building our membership. I mean, we have at least, 15 members now? It's just so fantastic. We not only just have this great membership, but we have a really dedicated, wonderful membership. A bunch of students who care about our causes, who care about making sure that books are available to students, making sure that students have a safe place where they can talk about literature. And here we are. 1 year later, we went from 2 people to almost 20. And we were just so lucky. Hernando came to our school. We immediately... Yep. Hernando, I met you because you just randomly got placed into my advisory group.
I was saved.
And it was a match made in heaven. I'm just very thrilled. So I could go on forever, but I won't anymore.
And I came here mid-year last year, and I knew that I would have to have a book club because wherever I go, I have to have a book club. And so I learned about DAYLO. I'd never heard about it before coming here. And I knew its mission, and of course I'm all about diversity and inclusion. So I talked to Ms. Amsden. Of course, she welcomed me aboard. She told me about the situation as far as we needed to grow. And I think somehow it just happened. I think Emily was a big part of that. And then advertising at the beginning of the year, getting people in. What I love about the club is that it's more than just reading a book, even though that's so important. But we're also educating ourselves about what is going on in our society and making connections between books that were written years ago and what's going on today. And, you know, I feel like our group really cares about each other and other people that may not have a voice. And so I feel very empowered by our club, and I hope that's how our members feel as well.
One thing I wanted to ask, I was just thinking of this because I'm curious, what would you like to see in DAYLO next year?
Do you want to go first?
Well, I think, you know, the podcast is great that we're starting.
Yep, I agree.
You and Emily, I think getting the word out so that we can even add more members, getting more people involved in our club, and also contributing to this podcast to get out information that helps our students and those in the community be more aware and more mindful of how important it is to welcome people and to get to know people that have experiences different from their own. That's what books do for us. So, yeah, I mean, I think it's just all good things that are going to happen.
I think we had a very interesting year. I think the fact that one of the books that we chose to read was immediately when we finished reading it, it was immediately chosen as one of the books to be banned from the school libraries, really was one of those igniting events that kind of made it all real to us about how legislature and these people who make decisions who we never see and who really don't have much in common with us end up making these decisions. We got to see firsthand how these decisions can impact us directly. To read a book, and it wasn't just any book, it was a book that everyone in our club really connected with. We were having amazing discussions and just really moving discussions about this book. And then, you know, like a week after it was like about a week after we finished reading it, right? Or when was it?
Was amazing.
I know, it was crazy. And then to all of a sudden have it show up on this list and for them to say that it was inappropriate after we had just finished having all of those amazing discussions about it, it was mind-blowing.
Yeah.
And I think, you know, I mean, it was obviously to us, and I think it was to you all and the students, all of the members, the student members as well. And it really helped kind of mesh together what it is we're doing here. We're reading books. We're reading books that have been challenged, that have been, you know, someplace in the country somebody has said, no, that this is not appropriate for children. We're reading these books, seeing what's really in them, seeing how wonderful they are. And that's what we do. That's what we do. We have these discussions. We see what's in these books, what's actually in these books, and we see how important they are and how important it is to fight for them to still stay available to everyone.
Yeah, that book, Perks of Being a Wallflower, was reading that with students was probably one of the highlights of my career. Like I said, I've always had book clubs wherever I've gone, but I thought about so much after we would have a meeting, how meaningful that was for teens to be able to talk about the book in such an open way with adults. And I never had anything like that at that age. And it just made me feel very good that Amsden and I were able to you know, be a part of that as adults and see and hear how wise the students were and how much they taught me.
Right.
The book was written around the time I was, like it was set during the time I was growing up. And so I saw it so differently than the students did. And they were so mature and so wise. It was just like wow. And to think that these people at the state level would want to take away that experience from those students and me, even as an adult, it's very hurtful.
I feel like the timing definitely was very ironic, and perks of being a wallflower getting put on that list was like the moment where like my eyes opened to that this DAYLO is just beyond, you know, a book club and what DAYLO, I guess, stood for, as well as going to Hill Day. That was very eye-opening. And, yeah, I think that was just a great experience.
Can you tell us some more about Hill Day?
So we went out in Columbia, we went to the State House, and we were introduced in the State House Representatives and State Congress, I believe. And we also got the chance to speak with one of our senators, I think. Who was more so on our side, but showing our faces was the main goal. Just to, instead of saying, hey, this hurts students, you know, the students themselves actually show up and say, you know, back the claims.
Yeah, it was really interesting to watch how these meetings like adjourn and how they occur around each other. I did get a recording of us getting noticed. It was really cool. They like announced who we were. We all stood up, and a lot of the meetings we stood up as they announced who we were, which is really important. And it's very eye-opening to see that like even just showing up matters. And they say that all the time for like when parents show up for their kids, but when you show up to show that you're making a stand, I think it's very different. And it shows that like you actually care about the cause and you're not just saying that you do. And the way that they like, it was very closed, but at the same time, it was so open for us to see what was going on around and how like the state building like worked, if that makes sense.
Of course, it makes total sense. I mean, in education, they love using these phrases over and over again. And one of the phrases that they use over and over again is that education should be student-centered, that everything we do should be for the students. And I have a lot of feelings about that, and I have a lot of feelings about different aspects of the public education system and it not being student-centered. And this is one of those examples where when we're sitting in a circle and the students are leading a discussion and the students are looking at a piece of literature and making connections and leading a discussion, that is what education's all about. That is student-led, student-centered education, in my opinion. When students are going to government and being represented and representing themselves in person, that is student-centered education right there. What's happening with adults choosing the books that can and can't be in our libraries is the opposite of that. That's adults putting their thumb over a child and saying, no, you are not allowed to do this. You are not allowed to do this. We will make the decisions about what's going to happen, what you're going to talk about, and what you're going to read about. And it's just the opposite of what education should be, in my opinion.
I agree. I think that as like the older kids get, the more restrictions are put, even though it might seem like the opposite and that younger kids have like less free ability. But I think that the older we get, the stricter the rules are and the less creativity we're allowed to have within like our academic learning, as compared to like kids in kindergarten who are learning by sitting in a circle and like repeating the phonetics out loud. So I think that that's really interesting how they're starting to restrict us more, which is going to affect like how kids learn when they're younger, and it's going to affect like their empathy with people around them because they were never taught to learn by sharing like their experiences and learn by sharing the knowledge rather than containing it and having it set out in front of them on a piece of paper. And I think it's really interesting.
And we've talked about this before. I know we've talked about teenagers scare adults. It's a scary time for adults to see teens because when you're a teenager, you're getting closer to adulthood, and you are starting to have your own thoughts. You're starting to get your own opinions about things. You're starting to decide what kind of human being you're going to be in the world. And so many adults feel that the answer to that scary time is to try to limit the amount that a teenager can think for themselves and make decisions for themselves. And I think that can be really harmful to a teen's development, for sure.
That's what I think the worst part about some of these book bans is because some of the books being banned talk about experiences that us, like, teenagers have already had. Like, they're experiences that adults may be trying to shield us from, but we have already experienced them ourselves, whether it's dealing with trauma, losing someone in your family, drug abuse issues. Like, these are all issues that as a teen you're like first exposed to, and that's something that everyone's probably exposed to in their lifetime. So it's kind of irrational to try and shield someone from it.
Right. It seems like, too, why are these adults looking at what is actually happening to teenagers in their life that are negative, whether it be abuse, whether they need, food at home, and all these different things and different needs, mental health care, but yet to go after books, it's just, you're really not concerned about teenagers or children. If so, you would be trying to help them. You would not be trying to keep information from them. And so it seems very disingenuous, especially when they go after certain minority groups, which is big. And so it seems very transparent to me what they're really doing. And so they have this excuse of trying to keep teens from having a porn addiction or doing bad things. But I cannot imagine anyone reading a book and thinking, and now I'm going to watch porn. I think they would, I'm just imagining here, not from personal experience, but it seemed like if you wanted to watch porn, you'd just get on the internet and go directly to it. I don't think you would read Perks of Being a Wallflower and then, now I have a porn addiction. So it's just absurd, their arguments. It's hard for me to listen to because it's all veiled in their bigotry. And so it's frustrating. And like for me in my career, that's aggravating because I know I've always prided myself on my collection development and my ability to get to know the students in my school population, and every population is different. And so the books that I order are for those students. I would not want to make decisions that go for the whole state, every school, and that's what they're wanting to do. And it just shows their lack of understanding for what it is that the educators are doing.
Not to mention that you went to school. You have been educated
Right.
in specifically curating a library for teens. That is your job. That is what you do. That is your life's work.
Right.
And the people making these decisions, not so much.
Right. And I don't know any librarian with ill intent. I think we're all trying to, do right by our students. There have been times I remember I purchased a book in a middle school, and when it came in, I kind of questioned it, so I read it, and I decided I'm going to send this to the high school. I mean, that's very typical. I've had elementary schools send me books that they decided were too old. So we're constantly reviewing, looking it over. trying to find the very best books for our students. You know, anytime a student asks me for a recommendation, or not a recommendation, to buy a book for the library, I'm on it because I want to have the books the students want. And so I bought books for my previous high school that I haven't bought for Battery Creek, and I bought books for this school that I didn't buy for that one. So it's very personal. It's a personal job. So to take that away and think that you can just make decisions for every student in the state is just very wrong.
Yeah, I find it really interesting that you're doing the process of like reviewing books that you think might be questionable or might be a little too old aged for like the children in your specific setting, and that the people who are banning these books are not taking action such as you are, but are saying that you aren't. I think
Yeah.
that that's pretty interesting to learn. I don't really know how the library system works, but just from like outside, and you just opened up that kind of window in, it's very interesting to see that, you know, you're taking the time out of your day to read a book and make sure that it's appropriate, rather than just immediately being like, oh, this is questionable, I think I should just send it up anyways.
A lot of times they don't even read the book. They'll just read out excerpts.
I'll read the Spark Notes.
Yeah. And so it's so harmful to our schools. It's degrading of my job, my profession.
It's again, it's funny because as you're saying this, I'm realizing I was just saying how adults are so often afraid of teens, but I think they're afraid of librarians and English teachers because we're the ones that do read all the books,
Right.
and they don't like that. They
Yeah.
don't like that we have that knowledge, that we know what's in the books that they are
Right.
trying to control or trying to remove from our shelves.
It's a very anti-information
right,
movement, anti-education,
right.
just like everything that's kind of going on right now for our schools. We're being attacked right and left. And education is so important. Knowledge, information.
Yeah, I agree. I think that they're limiting the knowledge that you're allowed to share with us, so then we can't grow to become, I don't want to sound mean, but like grow to become like you guys, where you're knowledgeable within what's happening around us, and to be aware of our surroundings when we're younger, because as you learn from what's around you and your environment, but if your environment, like the window into your environment is limited, then you only learn from that limited view. So them limiting you from telling us what's outside of our small like people is kind of interesting, and it's very like difficult to wrap your head around, because it doesn't make sense why they would limit knowledge that educators who are not going to tell us the wrong thing, like that Hitler was good or something. Like, you're not going to tell us that. No one would ever tell a teenager that to commit those acts again or to repeat history that's harmful. They're only sharing that so then you learn not to repeat these mistakes, or like you learn what kind of environment you're about to be growing up in. Because what they're doing isn't just affecting like me and Hernando, because we're graduating 2 years. It's affecting the kids that are coming up in 2 years.
That's right.
Yeah.
That is right.
And the adults are fearful, and they're very fearful of how diverse our country is. Mm-hmm. And they don't like the fact that teens are very open-minded, and they embrace diversity. They embrace each other. They're not trying to control their friends, and they've seen it in the media, how different teens are today, and they are thinking they're being indoctrinated in the schools. But what is really happening is you're just going to school and you're meeting people who came from different places, different countries, different backgrounds, and so it's not the teachers. It's just they're having these experiences. They like people who are different.
Yeah. They're open-minded. Y'all are open-minded.
I feel like older folks are freaking out, especially because I feel like our generation, or just the time we live in, like our generation has the most potential to push for change. And especially with things like the internet, the ease of access for finding information is better than it ever has been before in history. So the change that our generation alone could create is something that they are not too excited for.
Not excited to see change that's not going within their bounds.
That's right. That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Y'all are absolutely right.
Well, DAYLO is more than just our chapter here at Battery Creek. I know you've been to other things. What else does the community offer you to do outside of what we do here?
DAYLO offers the teddy bear picnic, which allows us to we do bring banned books to the Port Royal Farmers Market, and we sit and read to little kids as their parents shop. A lot of kids will come, they'll play with the teddy bears. They're normally not old enough to read, so you do have to read to them. If they are old enough, they get to interact with the book and they get to learn their own phonetics. We help them read. Outside of that, we also do book drives, which allows us to give. Last year, they gave like 1,000 something books to the middle schools in Beaufort, and they delivered them around. And that is very interesting to see because a lot of the schools don't get enough funding to like continually buy books or aren't as lucky. And so it's pretty cool. And then in the summer, they do Camp Conroy, which I just got a text message about yesterday. It's where they learn how to write, and they do, hold on, let me pull it up. They learn how to write young artists, so they write their own book. So they teach them how to build a book for like a week, which is really cool. And a lot of DAYLO kids who are older, so like 16, 17, and 18, they go and they are counselors at the camp, and they teach the kids how to read and write. But DAYLO is very community outreached, and it is very big on volunteer work. They've worked with the senator. There's an office here, and they've worked with him just kind of like introducing students and showing like representation as we did on Hill Day. We do Human Library, which brings people's stories to the public so you can see that people are different, which is a part of the diversity and inclusion, because it includes these different people, like people who are homosexuals. They bring in people who struggled with drug past, people who struggled with racism, just a lot of different people that are in our community that you don't see every day, but you know that they're there. And so it brings representation to that specific small community. I don't know. DAYLO does a lot of things to help show the community that like we are different, and that's okay. It's not just a book club, and a lot of people will join it as a book club, and then as you get more involved, you see that it's really not just a book club, and that it's important. Do you have anything to say, Hernando?
That's something I'd want to see improve next year in DAYLO is getting obviously more members, but more members to participate in what DAYLO offers outside of just Battery Creek. And I also maybe trying to find ways where we could raise funds so we could bring more people to things like Hill Day. I think that would have been awesome to have more Creek representation there. But then again, our school didn't technically allow us to be there.
Exactly.
That would have been nice.
And that's always going to be a struggle, right?
Yeah.
That's always going to be a struggle with working out of the public education system, is there's always going to be limits to what we can do. However, that's why it is so great for us to be part of this larger organization that is not tied into public schools, so that can offer those opportunities for people who want to do more work promoting all of the things that DAYLO stands for, promoting diversity, promoting literacy, making sure that that all of that good work is done in the community.
Yeah, and I think you guys, like, not to be over the top, but I do think that you guys individually here have changed the Creek chapter by a lot, and it's very important to have those supportive adults. And I think in a lot of the school, we only have a couple of adults that a lot of kids will go to for help. And I think that you guys joining DAYLO and becoming advisors has given the 20 members that we have that person to come to for support. Like, I know that Hernando goes to Ms Amsden all the time about like if he needs help with essays or anything like that, or if he has like questions about what he should do in the future. And I've come to Ms Alford multiple times about just things that are going on within like our lives, and I've been able to build that kind of relationship that they want to prevent. And I think that it's very important, and I just want to say thank you for doing that.
Thank you,
Yeah.
Emily. That is, we feel the same way about y'all.
Yeah.
Just so you know. And one thing that I want to say to kind of bring everything full circle also is you two taking the helm, starting this podcast. I mean, talk about taking things to the next level.
Yes, I'm very excited.
First of all, Ms. Alford going through the channels that you needed to go through, getting the grant that you needed to get so that you could make all of this possible, so that you could build this studio for us. Yeah. And then you two just jumping right in and starting this podcast. I mean, this is amazing. And this is exactly what you were talking about, Emily, about getting our message out, finding ways to take that circle of us sitting in a circle talking about these things and expanding that circle. I mean, it's really fantastic.
Yeah. You guys need a voice. I mean, you have a voice, but you need it.
It's all about.
You need to elevate it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's what it's all about.
The elevated voice.
That's right. The elevated student voice. That's what it's all about.
Yeah.
Student voices.
I mean, you guys have power, and you're going to see that as you grow. And we want everyone, to use the power that they have for good.
Yes.
Do you have anything to say, Hernando?
I just agree that talks like this at the ground level are the biggest catalysts for the big things, the things you see in news, the massive protests, or just people who are outspoken. I feel like communities or just circles like this is where you can educate yourself and build that confidence to realize, hey, this is wrong, and I'm going to say something about it, rather than kind of just looking around and seeing what everyone else thinks about it.
And that's the greatest feeling, isn't it? Is when you do say something about it, and then you find out that there's so many people that feel the same way as you. Tying it back to the books, that's why we read books, is because we go through things in our lives, and sometimes we don't know that we're not the only one experiencing something, and then to see somebody experience something similar in a book. I mean, we've all, I'm sure, had that feeling where you're reading it and you're like, oh my gosh, this is me, or I've been through this, or this person gets me. And it's a great feeling.
Yeah, and teenagers often feel so alone. So to take away those characters that give them comfort and make them feel like they're not alone, it's cruel, in my opinion. It's very cruel.
I think that puts us at a great end, and I think that you guys did amazing. And I want to say thank you for allowing us to interview.
Thank you both.
Yeah, thank you.
Best teachers
Yeah.
and librarian.
Are we going to do a group hug after this?
That's kind of a group hug.
I know. Like, oh.
So yeah, I think that puts an end to today's episode,
Yep.
the very first DAYLO podcast episode.
DAYLO on air.
It was great talking to you guys, and I hope we can do this again sometime.
Thanks, y'all.